Welcome to Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast brought to you by Jack and Coke. I'm your host, Pete B, and I've got my co-host here, Sam Jesse. Sam, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Pete. Continuing to be a little bit chaotic here in the Jesse household, but we are thriving and excited for this weekend of football, dude.
Sam's got a couple of different trips coming up in the next few days.
Yeah.
You've been a busy man trying to get ready. Why don't you give us the cheers and then maybe tell us a little bit about what you got going on?
Oh, yeah. So the cheers is pretty obvious, I think. Bashal Tuten, 266 gosh darn yards on the ground. A Virginia Tech single game record, breaking another Thursday night record held by Darren Evans against Maryland. And I got to tell you, he could have gone for 300, dude. He could have gone for 300. What a game. What a performance. What a game. We'll talk a lot more about Bashal Tuten in a little bit here.
Cheers. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm about half empty on this beer because I decided to dive into some of the Treehouse. I started the Julius. It's something Beer Control commented, like, if he had to drink one beer for the rest of his life, he might just go with this beer. And he's a beer connoisseur. It's a phenomenal beer, 6.8%. It's technically a single, but it's, a little bit on the heavier side. It's better than I remember. It's so good. I mean, and if you haven't had Treehouse, I'm not trying to say it's the be all end all, but it is so freaking good. And I'm going to have their single shot pumpkin, and I'll review it later. I've never had this one. I have had the Julius before.
I'm on a new beer as well. So,
oh, sweet.
Yeah,
I like it.
So stay tuned.
What's going on with your trip? You're going to Blacksburg for Georgia Tech, right?
Oh yeah, we'll be in Blacksburg, hiking the Triple Crown over the next few days.
Very nice.
So really excited about that. Me and my dog Baker, my Shepherd Terrier mix. We both love getting outside, so we're gonna do 34 miles in probably 20 hours of hiking. Really excited for it. The weather's gonna be beautiful. The fall foliage is gonna be beautiful. Really, really excited for it, dude. It's probably my favorite thing in the world.
Other than Baker, is anyone going on this trip with you?
Nope. And thank God. I cannot wait. I'm not going to be in front of a screen. I'm not going to be talking to anybody. Just out there enjoying it, man.
Yeah. And then you're going to walk all those miles and then walk a bunch more miles in Blacksburg this weekend. And I may see you down there. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The helmets, the jerseys. Let's get this out of the way before we get to the game recap, because we know the game was great. VT beat BC 42-21. If you're listening to this pod, you probably watched it. We're going to break it all down. But how about those script helmets, man?
So pretty. So pretty. We had heard so much that they were going to try to implement the script somewhere, and really excited that they did it in that way. I thought it looked really good, looked really natural. The orange uniforms popped. They were fresh, clean, not too busy. You let the orange speak for itself. Looked so good under the lights. I do have one qualm, though.
There's always qualms.
Okay, so I have this for all uniforms. I don't like it when fonts don't match. You use multiple different fonts, and having the modernized Virginia Tech font on the chest, which looked fine, and then the script Hokies, to me that clashes a little bit. Maybe I'm the only person who that bothers.
But
it bothers me with a lot of uniforms.
Weren't timed the exact same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we knew we were getting orange jerseys. Maybe they didn't know if they could make the helmets happen or vice versa. And that's why the fonts didn't match. Because if they had that Hokies, the script across the chest of the uni, it might have taken it up even a further notch. But I love them. They were on par with the orange uniforms from the UNC game many years ago that just said Hokies in the modern font across the chest. Those were awesome. These were slightly different. Obviously, we got new jerseys this year, maybe slightly different orange or maroon or whatever, but it looked awesome on TV.
The lighting does a lot for that color orange,
yes.
Too. So it could very well. Clark Ruland, our good friend, knows all about this, but the lighting that those jerseys are in makes a massive, massive difference.
Yes. If it's a day game like the UNC game was, it's going to look more neon. If it's a night game, it might look a little bit more burnt, but really awesome jerseys. And it's nice to debut something like that and win. That's what's really cool about it.
Yeah. All right. It was a darn near perfect night. We'll
It
talk about it,
really
but
was.
darn near.
Couple news and notes before we get into the game recap. There's a 6-day hold on the Syracuse game. We don't know what time that's going to be. I think a lot of the games have a hold, maybe even all of the ACC games are trying to figure out what's going to be a good game, I guess. The depth chart injury update, I don't have a lot here. Normally there's a lot. I know there's some players that may be coming back, like a Ganem or a Stroman in a few weeks or whatever. But right now, the only thing I have, Sam, is it Keller or Brumfield as the starting Mike going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about on College Football Monday how good of a game Jaden Keller had. I thought he looked fast. I thought he looked explosive. Um, my brother-in-law and I sitting in the stands, like even we could see Brumfield has played better as the season has gone on, but there's a lot of times where he is getting met and falling sideways on his tackle or falling backwards on his tackle. He's not necessarily attacking as much or shedding blocks. So, yeah, you might need a little bit more juice there at that position to create some negative plays like Keller did. On that fourth down stop was a really big play. Biggest play of the game, probably.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. CFB Monday, as Sam just said, 8 p.m. on the Sons of Saturday channel every Monday. Me and Sam were joined by Billy Ray Mitchell and Casey Hamrick to have a discussion on quarterbacks and the Big Ten and the SEC. And we kind of went all over the place. We talked a little playoff, but it was a fun conversation and really just like a bar conversation put on video. And hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yep, absolutely.
Pick'em leaders. Fitted Jones still in first place, 50 and 30. He
That's
is
crazy.
kicking butt, but Kevin Smith and Sean D08 are tied at second place, 46 and 34. I am tied for fourth, 45 and 35. Now, the difference between 50 and 30 and 45 and 35 is pretty big as a percentage, but it can be made up. We've got a bunch of weeks left. I can still get you, Fitted Jones, but you're doing great. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We had a request for maybe a basketball minute here.
Yeah, excuse me. I maybe a little bit of breaking news on the pod. I don't know if it's necessarily breaking news. It has been tweeted out some, but Hashir Miller, transfer from Temple for the basketball program, is not currently with the team.
Yeah.
I mean, he was. I can say from the only information I know is that when we were there for Spring Jam, he was not at practice. His locker was still there, but he was not present at practice. We were told it was not injury related. And it looks like he currently isn't with the team. I also know it's most likely not NIL related or anything like that. So it seems to be some other issue or feeling. And I don't think it's the end of the world, to be honest with you, because Ben Hammond, true freshman point guard, Paul the Sixth, dude looks amazing. He looks really, really good. The
And you
coaches
got
are
to see him
talking
up close, right?
yeah. I mean, the coaches are talking him up. Uh, he looks really good. And I think they're very excited about him and his ability to help this team immediately. Both Coach Webster and Coach Byers said it in interviews. They're really excited that he can help the team starting day one. They feel like they have the point guard spot pretty figured out with he and B-Rect. So excited to watch those guys. But yeah, Heiser Miller, unfortunate. I think a lot of people were looking forward to him and rooting for him. But for whatever reason, he's just not with the team right now.
I was looking forward to it because he's a Philly guy and came from Temple. And we cannot have nice things with this basketball roster. And if you're an old school basketball fan for Virginia Tech men's team, you know about this. It seemed in the Greenberg years, there was always like all these injuries that were like kind of screwing us over. I remember like this cryon they put up, and it was like 5 different guys one year's under Greenberg, and under Alan Cheney, it was just Hart. Like there was always so many injuries that even the Hart got hit on one of them. But yeah, Miller not playing or being not with the team right now. I had heard his locker had been cleaned out. I don't know the exact issue. I have a couple guesses. I'm not gonna do them here.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
stinks. It stinks.
yeah,
He was gonna play a lot of minutes for us.
and whatever the reason is, like I don't think it really matters. To From what I've heard and from talking with people around the program and people in the program, it's not they're not woe is me right now. Like, this isn't a Rodney Rice situation. This is not a please God. This is not a Rodney Rice situation. It's not even close.
It's not close, but the idea of losing what you think is going to be a contributor right before the
Yeah.
season is
Yep.
close at the guard position. And
Yeah, and
so
I mean,
it's tough to stomach.
it's not great. I'll tell you that, but it's not the end of the world. And another note quickly on basketball, because I know we have a ton of football stuff to talk to, but there is something Tech fans are going to have to kind of readjust expectations for this year and look at this team's progress throughout the season, which I think will be really exciting to watch. It's a very young team with a lot of years of eligibility left. But one thing that I did realize in talking with these coaches and looking up more about it, all of these coaches have recently been a part of multiple rebuilt rosters and taken them to very successful places. JD Byer did pretty much the same thing at VCU, where he's taken an entirely new roster. They ended up competing for A10 championships and making the NCAA tournament a couple times. Christian Webster's done it twice at Virginia Tech, once leading to the Sweet 16, another time leading to the ACC title game. And Mike Young has obviously built the Wofford program from scratch pretty much and has been in this exact same situation at Virginia Tech with less resources at the time. So in modern college basketball, like the last 5-6 years of this NIL space, a lot of these coaches have been in this situation and come out of the other side very successful. So for me, that's a glimmer of hope for this program, that it has a lot of new faces in Han Hurst, dude.
That was
Pretty much everybody's brand new.
that was the Ed Williams special spin right there. I really like that.
I mean, it's look, this team might not be very good. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what they will look like. I don't think the coaches really know what they will look like, but they're not going to be an embarrassment out there. Like, they do have some good
I
players.
actually still think they have a
they'll be
chance to
fun.
be better than last year. And I'm
Oh,
doing
yeah.
the Hokie Hoops pod with Ed and Mike. We put out part 1 of our season preview. We talked a lot about Hyzier Miller. So part of me is annoyed because that is null and void now, not to rhyme. But we're going to do a part 2. We'll address the Hyzier Miller thing. We're going to talk about, you know what I'm kind of grateful for, and you heard it there. I have a hard time saying Hyzier Miller. Like, those two things don't go together very well for my brain. And so at least I don't have to do that anymore. But we're going to do record predictions. We're going to talk out of conference. We're going to talk conference schedule and all that kind of stuff, taking that into account. I still am positive on the Virginia Tech men's basketball team, though.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm kind of excited for this season. I'm excited for this journey that the program's about to be on. It feels different. It's new. I'm excited.
It feels different for sure. I am. The vibes are still good despite losing Miller. Let's get to the game recap, Sam. This was a game of momentum swings. Tech scored on its first 3 possessions, had a 28-0 lead at the half before the turnover bug really hit us. It got a little hairy in the third quarter. You'll hear that in the voicemails, but BC ran off 3 straight touchdowns with the help of those turnovers. And that biggest play of the game you talked about at the top was the turnover on downs where Jaden Keller knifed through the line and not only stuffed the ball carrier, but basically threw him backwards. And that was only because we had overturned a first down call. Like, they threw it to Morales, right? They got the first down. He didn't get to the line. They overturn it. And then we stop him on 4th. Like, it was such a momentum swing. Like, you can't even quantify it. And from that point on, we had it. We scored 3 plays later, 35-21, sigh of relief. Hokies win 42-21 with another touchdown, and Tuten getting the record and all that kind of stuff. For me, who was not at the game, I thought the crowd at the beginning was amazingly loud.
It was. That was a really into it crowd. It was an awesome atmosphere. Like, I'm not going to put it up there with like the top 5 Lane Stadium atmospheres I've ever been in, but it was pretty high up there. Like, I thought it was a very positive energy the whole time. I thought the way the team came out and played, like, that first drive was a thing of beauty. I mean, Tech dominated on that first drive. It was awesome. They kept doing it. The fumble recovery by APR, it was so loud after that fumble recovery.
Yeah.
Awesome. The third quarter was, dude, It got
You want to hold off on
silent.
your thoughts so I could put up the voicemails?
Yes, please do. Please do.
All right, let's take a second to hear what the fans had to say.
Got to tell you guys, that first half felt incredible. I can't remember the last time a conference opponent watching a game like that just felt that amazing. But that third quarter made me want to jump off a building.
Kings of Thursday night, baby, with King Tuten in the record books.
Facial Tuten is so sick. Amazing game, and congratulations to him.
Well, the Hokies got a win, and I'm happy about it. I am. However, in some ways, the Hokies were pretty lucky.
APR played well, got his 10th stack. Career game for both of them, crazy. If only we can play a third quarter, we could have won by 60.
And I don't know what happened in the third quarter, but like everything fell apart. 2 for 9 on third down. That's not good at all. 9 penalties. Ugh, that's rough.
I heard the word momentum mentioned about 1,000 times during the broadcast, and thankfully the pendulum swung our way in the last half of the game there.
If they had ended up losing that game, I would have written a poem that would have rivaled the Iliad.
Just the day after a huge win, I'm feeling awesome. Facial Tuten broke a record. Tony Bennett is gone.
Pete B, brother. Sam Jesse, brother. It's the Hokie Maniac, dude.
I woke up in the middle of the night last night, fully clothed, and the lights were on. My lights were on, but nobody was home. Just an awesome night.
And I put my hands to the sky, brother, and I summoned all the Hokie Maniacs from the past and the present, brother. And I ripped my New World Order shirt, brother, because now it's his Prior World Order, brother.
Congrats on Tuten getting the single game rushing record. That's an amazing accomplishment for him. I'm very happy.
Facial Tuten is quickly becoming my favorite player. Amazing.
Hey, Pete. Sam. How the hell are you guys? Hey, look, man, just having a victory bong on the swings, man. Nothing finer in the land than watching Bayshore run for almost 300 yards and 4 tugs, man. What a fucking game. Go Hokies. We need more of this shit.
We do, in fact, need more of that shit. What a great group of calls. Thank you, Kevin, Pete, Rob, Dan, High on the Swings. We got them all. We got all the hits. And I love Robert Irby's call because he's like so euphoric. He's like, Tony Bennett is gone. Like, which we didn't mention in our basketball minute, but that was huge news.
Weird. Like, we don't even have enough time between now and
don't.
kickoff to talk about that, man. That's why.
But it's good for the Hokies, that's for sure. Yeah, awesome calls. Thank you to everyone who called. If you want to get in on the reaction line, it's 540-251-2169. We have a nooner this week. So get on the calls early, get on your bourbon early, and say something stupid on the request line. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, man.
All right, so I'm going to need your story of the game, Sam, but first I'm going to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. 2 Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Jack and Coke. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke. The #1 cocktail in the world is now available in a can. It's true. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey and Coca-Cola or Coca-Cola Zero Sugar are available in a can at your local grocery and convenience stores. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke. Ready to drink, RTD. Remember that. That's a term you're going to hear in bars if you're a alcohol connoisseur. They got the Jack and Coke RTDs, man. Make sure you grab them, and if you're having some, make sure you drink responsibly. Sam, are you a Coke Zero guy? Will you drink Coke Zero?
I'm going to be honest with you. Unless there's Jack Daniels in it or some other libation, I don't drink soda.
No, yeah, well, that's fair. I don't drink a
If
lot
I
of soda
was,
myself, but
I'd probably do Coke Zero.
okay.
I don't know.
Some people are really big. Like Coke Zero has like a cult following.
Do you know what else does? Dr. Pepper.
Fansville.
Dr. Pepper. I had a professor at Virginia Tech who was obsessed with Dr. Pepper. Also, Cher, obsessed with Dr. Pepper. Fun fact.
Cher. Did you see was it Dua Lipa that just did like the Cher? There was some kind of shared like thing, like
yes, like Dua Lipa was there.
Yes.
Yep.
In any case, just look it up if you're a Dua Lipa fan. Anyway, We're off track, Sam. What's your story of the game?
I mean, it's got to be Bashal Tuten, and I think it was such a cool moment when a guy is climbing towards an in-game record like that. And at first you're like, oh, he's just having a really good game. Oh, he's having a good game. And for some reason around Lane Stadium, they like don't put up player stats anymore as the game is going on. Like no one saw his rushing stats.
They used to always be on the bottom of the screen
because no one could see them. They weren't up. And then after his short touchdown run to start the fourth quarter, the guy behind us was like, "Oh my god, he just hit 200 yards already. Like he's already at 200. We still have a full quarter left."
It happened.
Then we started
quick.
talking about the record, and then he gets that long touchdown run. You're like, "Oh man, he is one drive, like he's one good carry away from this record." So it did feel like it happened really quick because it was. Pete,
Well,
can I say that was a pretty easy 266 yards?
I mean, he did it on 18 carries. And in the first two drives, we were up 14-0, Sam. He had only had 2 carries to that point and just 14 yards. I mean, 7 yards carry isn't bad, but like he hadn't scored a touchdown. He wasn't really a big part of those drives. So all of his work was after we were already up by 14. And it was so easy. Like the 111-yard rush before the 83-yard rush, like that one could have gone to the house. And then the next, like almost every run looked like it was going to go to the house.
The play that he fumbled in the third quarter was like a 12-yard run.
Right.
And they were just going to march down the field again on Boston College. Like they weren't going to stop him.
And it was on first down every time. Like the first down yardage. I don't know if you saw Damian Salas's post, but like David Cunningham talked about it. We had 12.7 yards per play on first down in this game. Most of that because of Tuten. It was the second most yards per play on first down since 1987 for the Hokies. Something like 240 of his 266 yards came on first down. Like, so it almost makes it more impressive because you expect a run on first down and we still got yardage.
56. I have the stat. 56% of the runs on first or second down gained over. Okay, were successful runs. So they gained over half the yards to go. So that is crazy. That's crazy high, by the way. Like think about it. Pretty much every first down, you're getting a 6-yard rush.
Yeah, I mean, and it was worse than that because, or better than that, I should say, because it was 14.8 yards per carry on the night. And it was like well over 16 or 17 yards per carry once he really got going. Like every single time he touched the ball, it was crazy. So if we want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into Tuten before we get to Chiron and the other guys, he is 7th nationally in rushing yards per game. He is ahead of David Wilson's rush yards per game the year he broke the school rushing record for a season. So David had 1709 in 2011. He was at 122 a game. Tuten's at 124 a game. Ryan Williams, when he broke the record in 2009 before David Wilson, he was at 127. So Tuten's not quite at Ryan Williams 127, but he's damn close. And so it's a historic amount of rushing yards in terms of per game. He's tied himself already for 6th in school history with 14 touchdowns by a skill player. Already 6th. He tied himself from last year. This time he did it in 7 games.
I believe he's like top 10 in the country in pretty much every single running back statistic.
And yards from scrimmage statistic.
Yes.
He's 11th in total yards from scrimmage per game.
He's having one of the best skill position seasons we've seen in Blacksburg.
It's unreal. And I thought of this the other day. He wasn't wearing a knee brace the other night.
Nope. He apparently in the post game, Brent Pry was like, he was adamant he did not want to wear the knee brace. So, and also for this game against Georgia Tech, he's had 2 extra days rest. And he only had 18 carries and he wasn't touched for half of them. So like he looked fresh at the end of the game.
He's fresh, man. He's fresher than he's been since, week 1 when we weren't using him as much. Yeah. And so now like with this identity, and this will be part of the takeaways I'm very excited for his potential. 368 total rush yards as a team in this one. Kyron Drones, 14 of 18 for 164, 3 total touchdowns. And I was talking about the TDs, like, and how we had scored 2 before Tuten really got going. Well, they were both because of Kyron. And like, he was bulldozing people because it wasn't just his throwing, obviously. He had some killer runs, and a shame of it was his best run. He had the fumble on, but man, was he running over some people.
He did. Like, he had a lot of attitude. We talked about confidence with him. Like, if he's playing confident, he's really, really good. Not only was he confident in this game, but he was angry. It was really fun to watch. I thought he was almost perfect in the first half. I think he went 11 for 12, and the only incompletion was a pretty brutal drop by Ollie Jennings on an out route.
That
which
drop, it was
not
right
something you want to see.
in his. I mean, it couldn't have been a more perfect pass. He was on target.
Yeah.
And even the play to Tuten, which you could say, oh, it was on Tuten's shoulder, it was a little behind him, the touchdown at the end of the half. He was running.
Yep.
It was a dart, and Tuten caught it. So, like, it was pretty good.
That 2-minute drive, that's I turned to my brother-in-law immediately. I was like, that's the best 2-minute drive I've ever seen from Virginia Tech, ever. I've never seen a drive like that.
Because Fuente was notorious for, like, packing it in before the half.
Yeah.
Like, we did not have a lot of those type of before the half, like, let's put a nail in the coffin kind of drives.
Yeah.
And that's what that was. So, Kyron played a great game.
That throw to Benji Gosnell on the sidelines. What a catch by Benji. Holy cow.
Good Lord. The Gosnell brothers, 89 total yards. Benji's catch was unreal. Like, Steven, is he leading us in reception yards now?
I believe so. But he had a good night. Felton had a good night. Lane was a little quiet, but it did look like they were not quite doubling Jalen Lane, but they were almost spying him as a slot guy, taking him away. And what that did is that allowed softer man coverage on Felton on the outside. So they just kept throwing hitch routes to him for 9-10 yards. So that's what having all those wide receiver weapons can do for you is, okay, you want to take away the slot guy, then we're going to hit you outside and vice versa.
I thought, just to finish Kyron, I thought the fumble, like that, it happens every now and again. You fumble when you're trying to plow people over. He had his second highest QBR of the year, and it's 3 straight games with an 80+ QBR. And if you look at the ACC guys, he has absolutely been playing one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC since week 5. It's not quite as good as Cam Ward. It's not maybe as good as Kevin Jennings, but it's pretty darn close. He's playing really well. And the interception, again, Kyron is he's the kind of quarterback where I don't know if he's ever going to be perfect in a game, but like he's going to do so much good to outweigh the bad. The interception should have been thrown out of bounds. You said that on College Football Monday.
15 yards out of bounds. Yeah, it was I don't know if he even saw the defender. The play was blown up from the start. Yeah, he probably should have just thrown that one away. It does lead to a maybe more the biggest issue with this game, and probably the biggest issue with this team this year, is turnovers on our own half of the field. Do you know how many turnovers Virginia Tech has had on their own half of the field through 7 games?
I'm guessing it's like 6.
It's 7 if you count the block punt against Marshall.
Ooh, that's
6
bad,
of them. 6 of them have led to a touchdown.
That's one a game.
Yes. Vanderbilt, Rutgers had multiple. Vanderbilt, Rutgers, and Miami all had them that led to touchdowns.
I mean, Jesus Christ, those are close games. Yeah, those. Yep. that is rough, dude.
So that is like,
what a stat.
If you were to, I don't think it's hyperbole to say like that is what is holding this team back right now. Like those moments on their own half of the field. I don't know if you can like coach that out of guys. I don't know if it's just bad luck.
Yeah.
But this defense has been given a lot of really short fields this year. It led to 14 points against Boston College. Virginia Tech had 2 turnovers on their own half of the field. Both led to touchdowns. If Tech can just take care of the ball down there, this is a really darn good team. Like really darn good.
It can't maintain, right? Like that pace.
You wouldn't
of,
think
like,
so.
turnovers in
Like-
your own turnovers in general, we know tend to revert to the mean, but turnovers in your own half really should. That's crazy. So I want to say a couple positive things, then we'll get to the defense. We were really able to neutralize Ezeraku. Like that was something we were worried about going in. He only had half a tackle for loss. He did have 6 tackles, but to not have him do any real damage as one of the best pass rushers, when on the flip side you had APR going crazy, was really great. So the turnover sucked. I'm not going to blame the coaches for the fumbles, maybe the INT, but I'm not blaming them for that either. Like the coaches coach really well on offense, and we had a couple turnovers. Like
I
there's
thought
nothing you can do about it.
Boston College was able to move the ball, but most of that was Thomas Castellanos just being the fastest player on the field. Like Tech had him bottled up, covered really well, and then he just ran away from people. I don't know if you're ever going to stop that. You can't
And
run a
he looked
spy the whole
good.
time.
I mean,
he
was
did.
moving quick. Like he
And
wasn't
Tech,
hurt is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, absolutely. And what Tech was doing defensively is they were playing a bit softer zone coverage to try to keep him in front of them. But they did have to resort to man sometimes. And almost every time Tech did, Castellanos just ran. And that was really their main offense. He had a couple of passes downfield, but for the most part, considering that 2 of their 3 touchdowns were on really short fields after turnovers, the Tech defense was pretty dominant in that game.
There was a couple moments where the game could have gone differently. Like it was 14 nothing. BC was driving to make it 14-7, and they were just moving right down the field. And that was one of the moments where Castellanos screwed up the mesh point or whatever, and they fumbled inside the 10, and we got the ball. And yes, APR was Johnny on the spot, but like that game, if they score there, the game could have been different, but it wasn't. On that 4th and 1, if they get that and they score and it's tied, the game could have gone different. That's the kind of little things that have not gone our way most of the year that are starting to go our way. And so we are seeing reversion in that aspect. And it was really nice. And BC was also 0 of 3 on 4th down, because when I looked at the stats, like it didn't seem like this was as big a blowout, but the turnovers, the 2 and it's Castellanos, like he looked healthy. He looked good, but his QBR was under 13. I mean, it was 12.7. That is awful. It was his worst of the year.
Yeah. And it statistically, this wasn't as much of a blowout as I think it could have been. Tech outgained them by 150 yards. Both teams had 3 turnovers. Both teams had 22 first downs. The difference was, again, like, I don't even think it was the turnovers were the difference in this game. Like, I think it was Virginia Tech had more explosive plays. They had bigger plays. And I give a lot of credit to these guys for coming out and playing fired up. I give a lot of credit to these coaches. I thought they, for the most part, out-coached Boston College. And I also think once Tech went up 21-0, there was a little, I don't want to say there was a lot quit or anything like that, but Bill O'Brien definitely was like, I don't know how much more I want to put on film right now.
Yeah.
Because they had two really nice plays that were schemed wide open for touchdown passes. I mean, wide ass open. But there was also like, they got a 15-yard penalty assessed on the kickoff, and they just kicked it out of bounds, completely negating that 15-yard penalty. They probably should have onside kicked in that situation, or after they got the 14, the second touchdown, probably should have onside kicked there as well.
I mean, it's funny,
Some
Sam,
weird,
because everything you're saying, like it adds up to like a poorly coached team. Like Brent Pry outcoached Bill O'Brien in this game.
Yeah, I think they did. And
that's not something we were praising Bill O'Brien for, kind of bringing like a mature attitude and philosophy to BC. Well, guess what? They sucked. They sucked for a lot of the game.
I really do think that comeback fell in their lap. Like BC didn't go get that comeback. They didn't make plays to get that comeback. Like it just happened. So I do think Tech coached to win that game, and BC, once they got down, I don't know how interested they were in coming back in that game.
let's give APR his flowers.
Absolutely, dude.
He leads the nation in
Absolutely.
sacks, tied for the lead, second in sacks per game. We mentioned the fact that for a Power 5 player, he has the most sacks per game. First VT player since Daryl Tapp to have double-digit sacks in a season. That's 2005, people. Like, Canham, he came close, depending on what source you go to. It didn't get to 10. Daddy Nicholas, he had 9. Jason Worlds, which I saw some people putting that out there, I think he only got to 8 in a season.
Mhm.
So it goes back to DT, who is as old as I am. Like, he's been out of school for a really freaking long time. And so it's amazing that we haven't had someone with double-digit sacks since then. We usually spread the wealth, but that's incredible. First Tech player to record 4 sacks in 3 different games. I said that on Monday, and the first to do it twice in one season. 7 TFL overall. APR responsible for more than half of those. And I want to just say again about Jaden Keller and the impact that he had on this game. It might have changed. His one play might have changed the game.
Yeah, it might have. And, I think that is so good for this defense to step up and make those plays when the offense needed them to do it. And if they get plays like that throughout the rest of this year, that's going to be the difference between this team winning, 9 games and only winning 7. Are going to be those types of plays on defense. So great job by Keller. The coaches have talked him up for so long, and it just hasn't consistently happened on the field. Would love for him to put together 2 consecutive performances. Also,
Absolutely.
a couple of other guys on defense I thought had really good games. Wilfred Panay continues to be really good as a rotational defensive tackle. He combined with a sack for a half sack today, another 4 tackles. I thought Kelvin Gilliam did really well. He had 3 solo tackles as a defensive tackle.
Didn't he force that one fumble?
Forced the fumble as well. I thought Keonta Jenkins continued to play well, but we always know he plays well. Aeneas Peebles was good clogging up space. The defensive tackle room has really gelled together, and none of those guys are going to have ridiculous stats, but they're a really good unit.
It's very good. And we
Really
haven't
good
even
unit.
gotten to see Curtis Perry, really, who's part of the line in some aspect, but
and you're missing Copeland, right?
True.
So there's
Copeland's
a
been
lot
out.
of talent that is you have 2 pretty talented guys that aren't really going to see the field much this year.
I
Copeland
love the
obviously won't see
fact-
it until the spring. So I like that position group, man.
Was
Really
it
good.
Cunningham that put up the stat about APR where he's got more sacks than games at VT?
Yeah,
It's
he has 20 and a half sacks in 20 games.
And so you take him from Florida. He was starting at the end of Florida, but maybe hadn't reached a full potential. He was clearly a little dissatisfied. He decides to come back to VT, and he's been a killer for us. Florida doesn't even have a pass rush, and we have their best pass rusher. Gilliam, you're telling me Oklahoma couldn't use Gilliam right now?
I tell you, dude.
It's really nice to get these stars that maybe didn't have the career they wanted at their first school to come back to Virginia and have awesome years. So that's cool. Woodson, again,
Great
we
game.
talked a lot about Woodson over the last few weeks, but 9 tackles for him. And Delane continues to be, since the first game and maybe even the second game, he has made a lot of plays for this team.
Yeah, he looks really good. Dorian Strong still looks really good. I think Dorian did get beat on a deep pass, and it was one that he just kind of misjudged the ball in the air. Good play by the wide receiver. First one I've really seen all year.
It happens. Yeah,
it happened. I think the corners are playing phenomenally. I think Quinn Reddish is playing really well as a young safety. Really well. I think Jalen Jones continues his good season. I think similar to Wilfred Panay, a quietly good season from him. Really been consistent. They aren't getting beat that much. He had a not really a pass defended, but he locked up a guy on an early wheel route that ended a drive. So good game for Jalen Jones as well.
All right, we got to close this thing out. Special teams wise, nothing much to speak of.
Perfect.
John Love was
Love
6
it.
for 6 on extra points, and Peter
Love
Moore,
it.
really nice game on his 3 punts. Awards: Tuten named Walter Camp National Player of the Week. You were mentioning him maybe being All-American. getting a little
He's
bit of
going to
love.
sniff it. He's going to sniff it.
And that's the kind of stuff that you need right there. Tuten, APR, and Chaplin were all ACC players of the week. Pry and Bowen got a little love in terms of the coaching awards. So a memorable game, great uniforms, some awesome plays. And we're never going to forget Tuten's performance, but we can still play better. You heard it in the voicemails that 2 of 9 on third down, 3 turnovers, 9 penalties. Like, you don't win a lot of games with 3 turnovers and 9 penalties, and we won by 3 scores. So if we can clean it up, man, this is why I was a believer we could beat Clemson this year. Is because if we can clean this type of stuff up and we are still beating ACC teams by 3 touchdowns, we can beat just about anybody. We saw it against Miami.
Yeah, and I think the style of play that this team is comfortable with, like Virginia Tech is comfortable running the ball 70% of the time. Virginia Tech is comfortable having their quarterback take a hit, right? And him being a power runner. And if you can lock up receivers one-on-one on the outside, that messes with a lot of these spread passing games. So I'm really excited about this team. You absolutely cannot sleepwalk this next game we're about to talk about, though.
Nope. You can't. A lot of goodwill could be undone if you were to lose a nooner to Georgia Tech. We are now top 25 in the SP Plus. That's my last note. We
Hang
made
the banner. Hang the banner.
Number 25
right next
in
to
SP
Liz
Plus.
Kitley's number. Hang the banner.
And then 22 in the Josh Pate poll, which isn't a poll, but that's fine.
You know that little trophy case Frank Beamer had from the national title? Just put a screenshot of the Pate
That's
poll
right,
there.
man. We're getting there. Let me take a minute to tell you guys that the 2D Hokies Under the Influence podcast is brought to you by Roback. You guys know Roback, the performance active wear designed for those who crave activity. The new drop came out in August. They're offering our listeners 20% off using code 2DVT. Grab one of the beautiful hoodies, grab a polo, joggers, tennis skirts. My wife was playing golf today. They have that stuff too. Roback, the ladies love it. The men love it. So many designs. If you've got 2 different football teams in the house, which I know a lot of couples do, you can grab a Notre Dame polo. You can grab Virginia Tech. You can grab LSU. You can grab Virginia Tech. 2D VT for 20% off your order. Roback, crave activity. For right now, Sam, I need to know what you're drinking.
All righty. So I am drinking the pumpkin ale from 2 Silos. Really cool, scary can here. I love it.
Wait, I've heard of 2 Silos. Where's that at?
Manassas.
Okay.
So I love me some goblins and ghouls. So I love the pumpkin head skeleton here.
Ghouls?
Some ghouls. 22 IBU, 7% alcohol. When I poured this, it might be actually caught on the audio. I said, "Oh no," because it smells like bourbon barrel aged, spicy, heavy, knock you off your socks type autumnal beer. And it is really pungent cinnamon pumpkin spice, but it is really smooth. And it doesn't taste like that. It doesn't burn. It doesn't have that bitter bourbon barrel flavor to it.
Like when you first sipped it, was it harsh or no?
It's a stronger pumpkin ale. It's a little bit more like a farmhouse ale is what I'm getting from. To me, it's very similar to the Hardywood pumpkin farmhouse ale.
Okay.
So I really like this. Is it the best pumpkin beer I've ever had? I won't say that, but I'm also I'm not really into like the hot cinnamon flavor things like Big Red chewing gum or hot tamales or anything.
What about, can you
and the
do
smell kind of gives me
Fireball?
that. I despise Fireball.
Okay, so yeah, okay.
So,
now I know
but
where you're
if
coming
you,
from.
but it's as a beer though, it tastes really good. So if you're into more of the hot cinnamon or the really aromatic fall stuff, I would really recommend this one because it is 7%. So it gives you a little extra kick there. Really cool can. Nice, really dark amber pumpkin color. So good beer from 2 Silos.
I think I remember why I remember 2 Silos. Isn't that where Pride did his Nova tour? I think
might be.
I think that's where they went.
Yeah.
Nice, dude. I'm glad to see you doing some Virginia beer. I am doing the single shot pumpkin talked about at the top. Treehouse milk stout. Now, so I don't do a lot of like with Treehouse. They are known, at least for me, for the New England IPAs. They might have even been one of the originators of the New England IPA, and they make it better than anyone else. I haven't had a ton of their lagers, milk stouts, porters, whatever. They have a huge selection, but I went with the single shot pumpkin. It is super dark. I mean, look at this. And it is a
Oh my
milk
God.
stout. So it is, I mean, this is black.
They'll put you to sleep. That's a
Six-
nighty-night drink.
6.4% alcohol. So the single shot is espresso related. It is a coffee pumpkin stout. I'm not getting pumpkin. Like it might be in there, but it's buried under the coffee flavor. But I love a coffee milk stout. So it's really good. It is not a tailgating beer out in the sunshine. That is not what this is. This is it's cold outside. I'm in my basement doing a podcast beer, and it is very, very good. I know Aslan makes a couple of these milk stouts that I really like. This reminds me, maybe How Now Brown Cow, I think is one that they have. Reminds me a little of that, but you can definitely get those chocolatey notes, vanilla, caramel, like there's all those things are coming through, and the coffee definitely, but pumpkin maybe not so much. I can't say anything bad about Treehouse, so I've already talked it up. No, it's a phenomenal milk stout. It's just totally different than the Julius I already had.
I need the listeners and you, Pete, to hold me accountable. I'm not normally a big stout guy, especially like milk stout. This winter, make sure I have some on the show. Some
We're
porters,
gonna
some
get
stouts,
you drunk
stuff
on milk
like that.
stouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not lactose intolerant.
It's time I become a man, Pete.
Put some hair on your chest, Sam. God damn it. All right. Georgia Tech, 1026, the Tecmo Bowl, as it's known in some circles. This is a really big game. We played Georgia Tech a couple of years ago in Blacksburg, and we lost by 1 point. And it still kind of bugs me, Sam. We talked a little bit about it on Monday. This team, they looked great in the beginning of the year. If we want to just kind of set the stage here, like they beat Florida State in that game in Ireland. Everyone was like, oh, damn, maybe Georgia Tech's for real. And then we found out that Florida State's not very good. Georgia Tech still doesn't have a very good defense. They're not a terrible team, though. In the FPI, they're 37th. And the SP Plus, they're 48th. We are higher than them in both of those metrics. And I don't think it's so much different than where they were projected to be.
Yeah.
I just think no one thought they'd beat Florida State because they didn't know how good they were.
Yeah, and I think they are who we thought they were a little bit. Like they're a very up and down team. They're going to play to the level of their competition. Offensively, they can do some things, especially on the ground. Defensively, they have some issues. They give up a lot of points. They've given up 30 plus points in 4 games this year. And a 3-point win against Florida State doesn't actually look so good.
No, it doesn't.
So it's an interesting team. I think it is a relatively well-coached team with Brent Key. They have a lot of talent.
Brent Key. I want to like him.
He's a football coach.
He's my second favorite Brent head coach.
Oh, wow. Huge. That's huge of you. Yeah. Some quick stats for the nerds. They have really good EPA metrics. Like they're 19th in EPA per drop back. They're 36th in EPA per rush offensively. They have a relatively good rush defense, but their pass defense is really bad. They're 103rd in the country in EPA per drop back defense, 114th in defensive drop back success rate. So like you can throw the ball on them a lot, and they haven't played that many great passing teams. I'm curious to see how Tech attacks this defense because they are so weak in the secondary. Does Tech try to pass the ball a little bit more than they did against Boston College or that they did against Stanford?
Yeah, and that's a change from a year ago. They brought in a new DC in Santucci. He went to a 4.25, and they wanted to focus on stopping the run because their run D last year was horrific. It was 130th, I think, in yards per rush. This year, it's been way up, 43rd in yards per rush allowed. Now, the last 2 games against the run, 5 yards a carry, 5 rush TDs against UNC and Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame's a very good team, but UNC isn't. So we're seeing a little bit of injuries because Efford, their star linebacker, Kyle Efford, didn't play against Notre Dame. But they got better against the rush. But I think they sacrificed against the pass. I think that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah, is there an update on Efford? Brent
I
Key
looked
was,
today. I couldn't find anything.
So
that's a huge injury thing.
That's
though.
a huge injury. Like he's
a star
on defense. Offensively, not to switch it, but since we're talking about injuries, there's a quarterback injury here, and a pretty big one. Haynes King didn't play the last game, shoulder injury. Reports are that he is out for the game against Virginia Tech.
Reports were.
Okay. Let's reports are that he is out for the game. The coach speak is that he is day to day and it hasn't been determined.
True.
To be honest with you, I don't know if Virginia Tech's like game prep changes that much. They're pretty similar style quarterbacks.
They're similar style. Haynes King is just so much better.
Yeah, exactly. But you're not going to not prep for the team because their backup quarterback is in there. I mean, he threw for 200 something yards against Notre Dame. And he's won in Blacksburg before. Let's remember that. So,
and that's what, let's emphasize that. The last time VT played Georgia Tech and Blacksburg, Zach Pyron, the guy who would replace Haynes King, was the quarterback, and he beat us. And it was, by my estimation, Sam, the best game of Zach Pyron's career.
Oh, by far. By far. I mean, that was in the quintessential, this player has the best game of their life against Virginia Tech. Of course they do. Something else, and I know we're talking about the injuries there. I don't know what effort is going to be defensively. If he's out there, okay. If he's not, okay. Haynes King is interesting at quarterback because we talked about Kyron Drones, and it's like his good outweighs his bad so much. Haynes King, that's not always the case. Like when he makes oopsie daisy plays, he makes a lot of oopsie daisy plays. And so I don't know if you throw that guy out there, like the reports that the insider reports that he was not going to be available were pretty early.
They were early. And he has a shoulder issue, and it's a throwing shoulder, correct? So, like,
yes, it's a throwing shoulder.
That's bad. And even Pyron was banged up at the end of that Notre Dame game.
Dude.
So, whoever the quarterback is, we're not getting them at 100%. But Haynes King, with 14 TDs and 1 interception and 1 sack on the year, 1 sack, that is a dangerous beast if he decides that he can play.
Yeah, and it's so different from the rest of his career. Last season at Georgia Tech and his season at Texas A&M. Like, he's been much more efficient this year.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other the other Haynes, excuse me, Jamal Haynes, running back.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's having some injury issues as well. I don't know his status. I won't trust anything Brent Key says, that I mean that in the most endearing of ways to Brent Key.
He's such a dynamic player. Him and King, really, but like it's Haynes King and Jamal Haynes. 551 yards for Jamal Haynes this year, 5.3 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns, but he's versatile. He can also, he was a former wide receiver. Last season, he put up a ton of all-purpose yards. This year, maybe not as much, but he's extremely dynamic. And if he's not 100%, that's also a big deal because Chad Alexander is a good 300 yards behind him in his performance. And after that, the best rushers are King and Pyron. Like, you have to go further down the list. So I think they have talent at wide receiver. In fact, maybe even a decent amount because they got Singleton, they got Rutherford. Singleton's kind of like a younger stud. Rutherford's been around a bit, but 44 receptions and 541 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's weird because, like, I thought they would be passing the ball more. And I think this is what people thought about Virginia Tech too, that we're going to come in this year with all these wide receivers, be passing the ball like crazy. Well, Georgia Tech ended up reverting to the run game just like we did. And it was Haynes King doing so much damage with his legs. And in addition to Jamal Haynes, that when that goes away, if that goes away, I think we're in a good spot here. If Haynes King doesn't play, I don't think Georgia Tech can beat us. If he does play, it becomes more competitive.
Yeah, I would agree there. And I think I was talking to a friend of the show, Dan from the Terror Dome, pregame Boston College. He was like, "How do you feel?"
Let me tell you something, brother.
I was like, "Man, I got to tell you, like, if you're worried about the game against Boston College at home on a Thursday night, like, I don't know what to tell you, because it's then you're just gonna be worried about every game." And I think this is definitely a step up in competition. I think Georgia Tech is a better team than Boston College. I think they're a better team than Stanford.
They're better.
Yeah, but I'm also going to say, like,
King.
Yeah, it's.
Do you think without King they're better than BC? I don't think so.
Then with healthy Castellanos, probably not. I just I can't get myself too worried about this. Like, this is a game, like, talent wise, Virginia Tech is a more talented team. They're playing at home. They have an extra 2 days rest. Definitely more healthy at the skill positions. Like, Tech should feel it's a 10-point spread for a reason. And I think Tech should feel
going up.
And it's going up. It started at a touchdown. The Haynes King news became a little bit more public, jumped up by like 2.5. I think Tech should feel pretty good about this game. However, we've seen Tech has struggled to string together 3 good performances in
we haven't
a
done
decade.
It.
A decade.
We haven't done it in 5 years.
Was that 3 ACC games in a row?
See, in 2019, I think we played 2 FCS. So
I think we played like a late season FCS. Like, wasn't that the Rhode Island year?
It was Rhode Island. But we also came damn close to beating Notre Dame that year. Like, we played a lot of good football in a row. But nevertheless, we haven't won 3 games in a row since 2019. One thing that is an X factor for their offense is the tight end. I think Boyd, he's the third leading receiver on the team. He's got 15 receptions for 205. Nothing crazy, but it is something to watch. I always worry about the tight end position because our corners are so good. Where does the coverage fall for the tight end? That's just something to watch. But if King doesn't play, our defense should be able to do enough to slow Zach Pyron down in the run game, because I'm really not worried about his arm. I'm worried only about his legs. He threw for a good amount against Notre Dame. It's not like he's not a scrub. I don't want to say Zach Pyron's a scrub.
No, he's a good backup. He's a good backup,
but he's not Haynes King. And so, with what we were able to do to Castellanos, this is a very similar style of quarterback. I think we'll be fine. If we just want to finish the thought on defense, the GT defense is 76th in yards per play allowed, 43rd in yards per carry allowed. So it's a little bit above average in terms of defending the run, but that's with a healthy Kyler effort. So much of this game comes down to, like, who's healthy for Georgia Tech? Because if they don't have effort and they don't have King, we could blow them out.
Yeah, and this is a defense too that, not to the level Boston College was bend don't break, but they are a little bit of that bend don't break defense. Over 44% of the drives against Georgia Tech this year have either crossed the 40-yard line or gone for touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at almost half of your drives against Georgia Tech's defense, you get into field goal range at minimum. And so Virginia Tech, a team that has been pretty good at capitalizing on those situations this year and has a very good field goal kicker, you have to feel if the defense comes to play, the offense should be able to score upper 20s, low 30s with relative ease.
Yeah. Did you see that Georgia Tech is 127th in sacks per game?
They're not a good pass. They're no part of their pass defense is good. Not one part.
It's crazy. I mean, they're 71st in TFL, but to be 127th in sacks per game, like, that's 7 from the bottom. You know, it's so poor. They have a couple of hurries to go along with it, but, like, Kyron should have time is my point here. And with how bad the pass D has been, if Felton's going to have a big game, it should be this one. If Jennings is fully healthy and isn't going to drop the ball, this is the game. to have a couple touchdowns.
Yeah. And
In-
sorry, but their rush defense has been good, but they've given up some big performances. Like they gave up 137 to Amari and Hampton. Let me get back here to the Syracuse game because I believe LaQuint Allen, he only had 83 yards, but a few receptions. So they've
It's the
given up
last
some
2
big
weeks.
games.
It's the
They've
last
given
2
up some
weeks.
big games.
Yeah, they've struggled, and I know Hampton's a good runner and Notre Dame's good, but like it's been going downhill.
Mhm.
And so Tuten, who's one of the best running backs in the country, and our offensive line, who we always knew could run block better than pass block,
Yep.
has been given the keys to perform the run game throughout the game. It has been working out well. And in ACC play, Georgia Tech has been giving up 26.2 points per game in their 5 ACC games. It's not a super small sample size. We should be able to put up 28 plus. If we put up 28 plus, something has gone horribly wrong if we lose the game. Like that. That's my
horribly.
opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's we talked about the Ferentz line, 25 points. What are we going to call the 30-point mark? Is that the Cornelson line because he could never hit 30?
I mean, it could. Yeah, I mean, it could be
like you have to you have to cross the Cornelson line.
The O'Kane spring. Do you remember the Mike O'Kane? Yeah, do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh God.
But I think like if you
don't turn the ball over in our end, how about that?
I don't see like Miami's the only team that like really scored on this defense, and they're really scoring on everybody.
It's true. Yeah, that's true.
Everyone else
they're
has
so
been
good. They scored 52 points on Louisville. Like Miami is really freaking good on offense.
Yeah.
So,
but dude, the refs, dude, totally. It was all the refs.
I like us to win, but this could be a bit of a crazy game. I feel like something unexpected.
Something weird's going to happen.
I
don't know what it's going to be, but it's
a nooner. It's Tecmo Bowl. Don't turn the ball over in our end. I think we'll be good. Let's go to picks, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Washington at Indiana. This is game day. Indiana 6.5 point favorites. Best team Indiana has played. I want to take Washington here. I really, really do. And I think I'm gonna. Give me the purple.
Yeah, purple rain, dude. I'm feeling it. Like the backup quarterback, it is such a step down from Curtis Rourke.
Rourke was so good. I don't think people understand how good he was at Ohio.
Yeah,
prior to being in Indiana.
Prior to getting hurt, too. This is kind of what Curtis Rourke has done. I think Washington has a game here. I just do.
Next game, Notre Dame at Navy. This is in the Meadowlands. Navy 13.5 point underdogs. We were joking about this on our thread earlier. It's a chance for Notre Dame to make a statement against Navy.
Yeah, first time since like the 1950s that sentence has been said. I don't really know what to do with this game. I do think I would lean win-loss Notre Dame. I don't know if Navy's defense can handle Riley Leonard. And we make kind of some jokes about Riley Leonard, but when he's on, he's on.
He's been very good lately.
I think I'm going to go with the Irish in this one.
To cover the 14?
I'm a pass. I am not betting this game. I am not betting this game.
It's in the pick'em this week. I'm taking Navy. I'm taking Navy for a couple of reasons. One, I just feel like they're going to be so juiced up, and Notre Dame's already lost to NIU, and they haven't been tested in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
this is
true.
This is Navy's chance. I don't think Navy's going to win the game. I think they can cover. The other side of it is Navy, like, they're going to shorten this game. It's a triple option. So like that shrinks your spread.
Right. And the only issue with that though is if that's your strategy going into the game and all of a sudden you're down 14-0, then that becomes
then I'm screwed.
Becomes a weakness, right? And so that's from pure betting perspective, when teams are like, oh, they're going to slow it down, they're going to keep it, like that could work against you.
It's also factored in, right? It's factored into the line. But,
yeah. So,
all right. Next game, Illinois at Oregon. 21.5. We mentioned this briefly on College Football Monday. Giant spread. It stinks a little. You've got a Midwest team going out to Autzen again.
Mm-hmm.
Like Oregon, I wish Oregon was like had to go to one of Ohio State or Illinois because I think it would be a lot more interesting. But I'm going to take Illinois. I just think it's too many points for an Oregon team that. How many teams have they actually like crushed this year?
I mean, a few.
A couple, but they still make mistakes. Even the Michigan State game, they made mistakes.
Illinois plus 21.5 is on my card. I just think Illinois is a good team. They're going to fight. I think Oregon is in a situation where they don't have to open things up 100% to win this game. Like, I think, again, it's another situation. Oregon can win totally comfortably, no doubt, and not cover this spread.
Exactly.
Like 35-14 covers the spread for Illinois.
Yeah. So that puts it in great perspective. I'm taking Illinois for sure.
Yeah.
Mizzou at Bama. This is an oddly interesting game, dude.
Gross. This game is gross.
You don't like it?
It's so gross because people act like Alabama is like terrible, and they also act like Mizzou is terrible. And Mizzou has a really good win against Vanderbilt and a good win against
yeah.
And then Alabama beat Georgia, and people are like, "Oh, they're terrible." Because they lost by one score on the road to Tennessee.
It is weird, right? Because I don't think either of these teams are particularly good.
But they're not elite, but they're good.
They have good wins, a couple of good wins, and it's probably going to be a pretty good-ass game. How can I not take Mizzou in the points?
Yeah, it's a weird game. And I think Missouri's defense hasn't been what we wanted it to be. If I'm going for a bet here, I would maybe go on the under because I believe the over-under is at like 57 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Missouri's offense hasn't been elite. I know their defense has had issues. Alabama is kind of the same way. Their defense has had issues, but I just see I see both offenses making enough mistakes that they kind of do the hot potato, pass the ball back and forth to each other a little bit. So like 27-20 game.
I mean,
feels a little more right here.
I don't know how you don't, if you're a bettor and you're looking at this game, how do you not sprinkle something on Missouri money line? Because to me, like this spread is so nonsensical. I know sometimes lines stink for a reason, and this one kind of stinks to me, but like maybe the Cook injury is worse than it is. But I thought Cook coming back from the injury and winning that game, that was the best I've seen Missouri perform this year. So that almost makes me want to take Missouri more.
Yeah, I'm not betting this game personally, but for the pick'em, give me the Tigers to cover this one. I think it's gonna be a close game.
Finally, last pick we're gonna make tonight is Texas at Vandy, because we played Vandy. Because Texas was just number 1 last week, and this is awesome that they have to go to Vanderbilt. It's so stupid because that stadium sucks. It's under construction, and there's nowhere to walk. 18.5 points.
And it's grown. It was like 16.5 at open.
Is this easy money? Like, am I crazy to think like, why would you not take Vandy plus 18.5?
I bet Vandy plus 19. I have them at plus 19. I'm taking it. First off, it's kind of
where's the point where you stop taking it? 17?
I think at 17 it would have been tough. 19 not being a football number kind of sold me a little bit, because that means the books are playing their liability a little bit. And so I'm going against the market saying the Tennessee is going to be back. But again, it's similar to the Oregon-Illinois game. Like Texas can win this game comfortably and not cover the spread. 34-17 covers the spread for Vanderbilt.
And you're recovering
Yeah.
from that game you just had, which some teams bounce back really well, other teams don't. But for them, not the quarterback situation alone, like I just don't understand.
Who's getting the reps this week?
Yeah.
And the only thing I will say that's a little bit scary betting Vanderbilt here is there is the chance that Texas's defensive line doesn't get hit on the option because they just bulldoze through the offensive line.
True.
Like that is Texas Texas and Tennessee for me are like 1A, 1B best defenses in the country right now.
Yeah.
There is a chance that they just like bury Diego Pavia 6 feet in the ground in this game. That is that is a chance. That could happen. That could happen.
I just had one of my worst weeks picking against the spread just this past week. I felt like last weekend was kind of a tricky weekend to bet. I did get the Georgia game right, but like I missed a lot of other picks. And I'm looking at 18 plus for Vandy. I'm looking at Mizzou plus 13.5. I'm looking at Illinois plus 21.5. And I'm wondering if like all three of these are going to blow up in my face because they seem almost too easy. You know what I'm saying, Sam?
Yeah, it's weird. It's stinky. I just think too, though, like how many times does Vanderbilt have to prove that they can hang with these teams?
Right.
And how many times
and betting lines are based on perception, not quality of team.
Right. And like how many times does Illinois only lost by 14 at Penn State? So like they've been in this exact situation before. How many times does Alabama need to prove that they're not the dominant force that there were a few years? Like the books sometimes have a better idea of these outcomes in the market, but they're going to price it at what the market thinks. And the market is going to lean towards Oregon, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, all those teams.
Because at the end of the day, it's Alabama against Mizzou. Like those brands are not on the same level. And despite Mizzou being 6-1, there's not a lot of respect there.
People need to be ready to be angry about Missouri in about a month and a half. I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just
they have
saying.
a weak schedule, dude.
I'm
they
just
really
saying.
All right. That's going to do it for the pod. Sam, thank you for all of your insight. We did a lot of stuff on this show. We're still at 111, not too long.
Through it.
Yeah, dude. Make sure you are subscribed. Sons of Saturday on YouTube. Sons of Saturday on the podcast feed.
And sonsofsaturday.com/VT is back live. We haven't.
The website was down.
Was down for about a week. Not great. Not great from
during our best win of the season.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons. The joys of small business ownership, Pete. Like that
I said on Twitter, like this would never happen to Texags.
We probably wouldn't. No, they probably have a whole supercomputer in College Station somewhere for Texags. But it is back up. We're going to continue our amazing content. Have articles out there. We are loading up here for basketball season as well. The women had a scrimmage tonight. I think they won like 92-41 over some college that I have never heard of. But we're going to be rocking and rolling on the website. We're going to be rocking and rolling on the website.
I'm going to be backloading some things in that I didn't get a chance to enter before, like back entries. I opened it up today and I said it was like a time capsule back to before before Bashaw Tuten broke the rushing record, but the website's fully updated. It's getting there. And we apologize for that. But make sure you're subscribed in all the places you need to be subscribed, including
like and subscribe.
The Too Deep thing. And I appreciate all you guys who have rated us on Spotify because we've gotten a bunch of those, and that is really cool. So keep doing that. Keep subscribing. Keep liking the video. And until next time, when we're celebrating, hopefully, a big win over Georgia Tech, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.